You know, what really separates a good personal trainer from a great one? It's the ability to design incredible programs. It's really that simple. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the key principles from the NSCA curriculum and show you exactly how to build training programs that are safe, effective, and perfectly tailored to your client's goals.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute must-know foundations. Then we'll dive into designing for resistance, cardio, and power. And to finish it all off, we'll look at how to bring all those pieces together into one seamless program. First things first, before a client even thinks about picking up a weight or stepping on a treadmill, we have to lock in the foundational rules of safety and physical readiness. And let me be clear, these aren't just suggestions, they're the absolute non-negotiables. So let's start with flexibility. And this is about way more than just being able to touch your toes. It's really about having a functional range of motion to perform movements correctly, efficiently, and safely. The real goal is that sweet spot, that perfect blend of strength and flexibility that leads to healthy movement. Now this highlights a really critical difference. Think of elasticity like a rubber band. You stretch it, you let go, and it snaps right back. That's a temporary change. Plasticity, on the other hand, is more like gently warming and stretching a piece of taffy. You create a new, lasting change in length. This is so important because our long-term flexibility goals are all about influencing plasticity in tissues like our tendons and ligaments. So this table shows us how to actually use that knowledge. The main takeaway here is pretty simple. Use dynamic stretching, things like leg swings, arm circles, torso twists, before a workout to get the body primed and ready. Then you save those long static stretches for your cool down to work on that long-term plasticity. And ballistic stretching, the high risk of injury just isn't worth it. It's a no-go. Let's wrap up our foundations with two elements you absolutely cannot skip. First, a proper warm-up. It does so much more than just get you loose. It literally increases muscle temperature and blood flow, getting your body and your mind ready for what's about to happen. And hydration. Look, it's not just about being thirsty. It's about regulating your body temperature and keeping your joints lubricated. Losing even a little bit of fluid can seriously tank your performance. All right, now let's see how these principles apply to what is, for many, the core of their training programs, resistance training. This is where we get to be architects, really, building a specific blueprint of variables to create specific results. Every single effective program is built on these 4 pillars from Chapter 15, no exceptions. Specificity means you get what you train for. Simple as that. Overload means you have to challenge the body beyond its comfort zone to force a change. Progression means you have to keep increasing that challenge as the body adapts. And finally, variation, well, you've got to mix things up to keep from hitting a wall. Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually apply these principles to a real-world workout plan? Well, it all comes down to understanding and manipulating the key training variables. I want you to think of these 5 variables as the main dials on your control panel. You've got frequency, exercise selection, exercise order, volume, and rest. By turning these dials up or down, we can fine-tune a workout to achieve pretty much any resistance training goal imaginable. Now, this slide shows a fantastic detail from Chapter 13 that's super important for exercise selection. See, it's not just what exercise you pick, it's how it's performed. For an exercise like a bench press, maintaining these 5 points of contact creates an incredibly stable, safe, and powerful base to lift from. It's a fundamental of proper form that makes a huge difference. And here's another simple but incredibly powerful technique cue. Breathing is not a passive activity. When you exhale forcefully through the hardest part of the lift, like when you're pushing that bar off your chest, you increase your core stability. The rule is dead simple. Breathe in on the easy part and breathe out on the hard part. Okay, this is where it all comes together. Honestly, think of this slide as your program design cheat sheet. You want to build muscle size? The prescription is crystal clear. Moderate to heavy weight, 6-12 reps, short rest. Going for pure raw strength? Well, the load goes way up, the reps drop, and you rest for a lot longer. This chart is the very essence of designing with a specific goal in mind. All right, let's switch gears. We've talked about lifting heavy things. Now let's talk about improving the engine that powers it all. Designing an aerobic program uses those same core principles we talked about, but now we're going to be manipulating a different set of variables. So to set the right intensity for cardio, we need a reliable metric. You've probably heard of the old 220 minus your age formula for max heart rate. And it's okay, but using the heart rate reserve, or HRR, is way more accurate and personalized because it takes your client's actual resting heart rate into account, giving us their true working range.
Now, this slide shows us how to use it with something called the Carvonin method. I know, it might look like a math problem from school, but stick with me, it's a really simple four-step process. By calculating that HRR and then targeting a percentage of that range, you can prescribe a heart rate zone that is perfectly tailored to your client's fitness level. It ensures they're working hard enough to get results, but not too hard. It's really important to remember that cardio isn't just one thing. This chart shows just how much variety we have to play with, from long, slow distance runs to super intense interval training. Mixing these methods is absolutely the best way to develop a well-rounded aerobic base. And let's be honest, to keep things from getting boring. All right, now for our final training module, and this one's a bit more advanced. Plyometrics and speed training are all about one thing: generating the maximum amount of force in the absolute minimum amount of time. This is the science of being explosive. To really get plyometrics, you have to understand the stretch shortening cycle. Think of it like pulling back a rubber band and letting it fly. Phase 1 is the stretch, the loading phase, like when you land from a jump and your muscles store up all that elastic energy. Phase 3 is the powerful release, the unloading, as you explode back up. But the magic, the real secret sauce, is in Phase 2, the amortization phase. The goal is to make that tiny transition between loading and unloading almost instantaneous, to get the most powerful pop. But, and this is a huge but, when it comes to plyometrics, we have to talk safety. Yes, they're incredibly effective, but they also put a tremendous amount of stress on the body. These safety prerequisites from Chapter 17 are completely non-negotiable. Your client needs a solid foundation of strength, speed, and technique before they even attempt low-intensity plyos. Safety has to come first, always. And even though we often group them together, it's really important to know the difference here. Plyometric training is all about improving that vertical force production, that explosive pop off the ground. Speed training, on the other hand, is about refining the technique of sprinting, improving stride length and frequency so you can cover ground faster. They definitely complement each other, but they have very distinct goals. So, we've laid out all the individual blueprints for resistance, for cardio, and for power training. The final step, and what I think is the true art of coaching, is putting all of those pieces together for a real client in the real world.
So let's just boil it all down one last time. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with those 4 pillars. For strength, it's all about mastering those 5 variables. For cardio, personalization is king, using methods like Carvone. And for power, it's about harnessing that stretch shortening cycle, but doing it safely and effectively. And that question right there really brings us to the final and most crucial point. It's rare that a client has just one simple goal. The real challenge, and the real fun, is taking all these distinct components and weaving them into a cohesive weekly schedule that tackles multiple goals at once. It's a dance of managing intensity, recovery, and focus. And that synthesis, well, that's both the art and the science of great program design.